Imagine our planet as a bustling marketplace, teeming with goods and services. We buy, sell, and produce a mind-boggling array of things. How do we measure the total value of all this economic activity? Enter gross domestic product, or GDP, the grand sum of a nation's economic output. GDP is the market value of all final goods and services produced within a country's borders over a specific period, usually a year. It encompasses everything from the smartphones we use to the roads we drive on. GDP is a crucial economic indicator, providing insights into a nation's overall economic health and standard of living. Think of it as a cosmic yardstick, measuring the size and strength of an economy. A rising GDP typically signals economic expansion, job creation, and increased prosperity. Conversely, a shrinking GDP suggests economic contraction, potential job losses, and a decline in living standards. Understanding GDP is like having a telescope to observe the vast economic universe. It allows us to track economic growth, compare nations' economic performance, and make informed decisions about the future. In our quest to understand GDP, we encounter two key concepts: nominal GDP and real GDP. Nominal GDP measures economic output at current market prices, reflecting the prices prevailing in the year the output is produced. It's like measuring the universe's expansion without accounting for the stretching of light. We need to adjust for inflation. Real GDP, on the other hand, factors in inflation by using a base year's prices to value the goods and services produced in all years. This adjustment allows us to see how much of the change in GDP is due to actual changes in output and how much is due to rising prices. Imagine comparing the price of a spaceship today to its price a decade ago. The nominal price might have skyrocketed due to inflation, but by using a base year's prices, real GDP helps us determine if the spaceship's production cost has truly increased. Real GDP provides a more accurate picture of an economy's true growth over time, as it filters out the distortions caused by inflation, those mischievous cosmic rays that can skew our economic observations. Just as stars are born, shine brightly, and eventually fade, economies experience periods of growth and contraction, known as the business cycle. GDP growth, our trusty economic telescope, helps us navigate these economic tides. Picture a wave-like pattern with distinct phases: expansion, peak, contraction, trough, and recovery. During expansion, GDP rises, unemployment falls, and businesses flourish. The peak marks the high point of economic activity. Then comes the inevitable descent. Contraction, often referred to as a recession, is characterized by declining GDP, rising unemployment, and reduced consumer spending. The trough represents the lowest point of economic activity. Finally, recovery emerges, with GDP starting to rise again as the economy begins to heal. Understanding these cyclical patterns helps policymakers and businesses make informed decisions, much like ancient mariners relied on the stars to navigate the seas. By tracking GDP growth, we can anticipate economic turning points, implement appropriate policies, and steer our economic ship through calm and turbulent waters alike. Let's turn our cosmic gaze to Malaysia, a Southeast Asian nation with a dynamic economy. Malaysia has experienced impressive economic growth in recent decades, transforming itself from an agricultural economy to a manufacturing and technology hub.
Malaysia's GDP has grown steadily, averaging over 5% annual growth in the years leading up to the COVID-19 pandemic. This growth has been fueled by exports, particularly in electronics, palm oil, and petroleum products. The services sector, including tourism and finance, has also played a significant role. However, Malaysia's economy, like many others, faced challenges during the pandemic. GDP contracted in 2020 but rebounded in 2021, demonstrating resilience and adaptability. Malaysia's economic story is a testament to the power of sound policies, strategic investments, and a commitment to innovation.
Section 5, GDP and the G7. A stellar comparison. Now, let's broaden our cosmic perspective and compare Malaysia's GDP to that of the G7, a group of 7 highly industrialized nations: Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
The G7 represents some of the largest and most influential economies in the world. In terms of nominal GDP, Malaysia's economy is significantly smaller than those of the G7 countries.
The United States boasts the largest GDP, followed by China and Japan.
However, when we consider GDP per capita, a measure of economic output per person, Malaysia's performance is noteworthy. Malaysia's GDP per capita has been steadily rising, approaching the levels of some G7 nations.
This indicates that Malaysia is on a path toward greater economic development and a higher standard of living for its citizens.
Section 6. GDP and the G20. Expanding our cosmic horizon. Let's expand our cosmic horizon even further and consider the G20, a group of 19 countries plus the European Union, representing about 80% of the world's GDP and 2/3 of its population.
The G20 includes both developed and emerging economies, reflecting the growing importance of the developing world in the global economic landscape.
Malaysia is a member of the G20, underscoring its growing economic influence on the world stage. Within the G20, Malaysia represents a model for other developing nations, demonstrating that economic growth and progress are achievable through sound policies, strategic investments, and a commitment to innovation.
By comparing Malaysia's GDP to those of other G20 countries, we gain insights into the country's economic strengths, challenges, and opportunities for future growth. We also see how interconnected the global economy truly is, with each nation's economic performance influencing the others.
Section 7. GDP in action, guiding policy and investment. GDP data is not just a bunch of numbers floating in space. It's a powerful tool that guides policymakers, businesses, and investors in making informed decisions.
Governments use GDP growth rates to assess the overall health of their economies and to formulate fiscal and monetary policies. For example, if GDP growth is sluggish, governments might cut taxes or increase spending to stimulate economic activity.
Businesses use GDP data to forecast demand, make investment decisions, and adjust their strategies. For instance, a company might use GDP growth projections to decide whether to expand into a new market or launch a new product.
Investors use GDP data to assess the economic outlook of different countries and to make investment decisions. A strong GDP growth rate can signal a favorable investment climate, attracting foreign direct investment and boosting economic growth.
Section 8. GDP and the world stage: trade, finance, and global growth. In our interconnected world, GDP plays a crucial role in international trade, finance, and global economic growth.
GDP data provides insights into the relative economic strengths and weaknesses of different countries, influencing trade flows, exchange rates, and capital flows.
Countries with strong GDP growth often experience higher demand for their exports, boosting their economies. Conversely, countries with weak GDP growth might see their currencies depreciate, making their exports cheaper but potentially fueling inflation.
GDP data also influences the decisions of multinational corporations, international organizations, and global investors. For example, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund use GDP data to assess the creditworthiness of countries and to provide financial assistance.
Understanding GDP is essential for the complexities of the global economy, promoting sustainable growth, and addressing global economic challenges.
Section 9, Conclusion: GDP, a cosmic compass for our economic journey. As we conclude our cosmic exploration of GDP, we've gained a deeper understanding of this vital economic indicator. GDP, like a compass guiding explorers across uncharted territories, provides us with valuable insights into the health, growth, and potential of economies worldwide. From distinguishing between real and nominal GDP, to understanding its role in economic cycles, to comparing nations' economic performance, GDP is an indispensable tool for policymakers, businesses, investors, and anyone seeking to comprehend the complexities of our interconnected world. By continuing to study and analyze GDP decisions, promote economic growth, and create a more prosperous future for all. Just as astronomers rely on telescopes to unravel the mysteries of the universe, let us use GDP as our cosmic compass, guiding us toward a brighter economic future.